Coming up on Nebraska Stories, an artist with ADHD finds her voice, exploring the Tupperware of its time. An Omaha woman breaks through gender and racial barriers. And rare footage provides a window into Grand Island's past.
I've been drawing for forever. Half of my pictures of me when I was younger were me coloring with my brother, me coloring with my grandma. And I've honestly wanted to be an artist pretty much my entire life. And so to now be doing comics or being able to make people laugh and talk about things I care about, it's been really great.
We're here to go.
From here.
We're here, all right. 493.
Danny Donovan, an artist with ADHD, has channeled her creativity to help others with the disorder. Through her mental health comics on life with ADHD, her works have gone viral in online communities.
It wasn't on purpose. I did not start making comics with this intention of like, I want to have this larger conversation about ADHD and I'm going to make this whole series of stuff and we'll see what happens. That was not it. I had an interest in mental health comics forever. I found them like maybe 2 years ago, and I just cried my face off finding some of these things that really, they weren't even sad. They just said something that I have felt my whole life and either never really thought about that much or hadn't processed or had never felt like someone else got it. And so that deep feeling really hit me.
Danny was diagnosed with ADHD later than most, while a freshman in college.
It's such a relief for me and for a lot of people to have not a reason, but an explanation for, well, maybe this is why I've felt different my whole life.
ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. The newest nomenclature is either ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, with hyperactivity or without hyperactivity. So, as best we understand ADHD, it is a different way that your brain sort of processes information and thinks. It has nothing to do with intelligence or ability to learn. It's more related to how you think and how you learn.
For me, I kick into this thing called hyperfocus a lot, which not everyone with ADHD has. My brain gets so fixated on the thing that I'm doing that I forget, I say what time is, but don't realize how much time is passing, get into really like obsessive perfecting mode. So for design, for me, it's been, say, a blessing and a curse because I can stay up till 5 in the morning working on something that I'm really interested in and perfect it. I can't stop or my brain, gets angry. When I'm in the mood to make a comic, it's cathartic in a way that I get to talk about stuff that I haven't talked about before.
As Danny began to explore this medium as a way to communicate about ADHD, her first foray went viral.
I had this idea for drawing how my thought process works and the pattern that I've done so many times. It was so easy to draw because I do it constantly. I want people to know that I made it for them. I didn't try to make it to appeal to the widest amount of people that I could. It turns out there were a lot of people who liked it and that it applies to a lot of people. I knew pretty quickly, like, wow, this is a thing, because it was like maybe an hour in and it was at like 400 likes. It was viewed by like 24 million people in like 3 days. And so it was this incredible moment of me trying to add up, okay, how many giant cities is that? Like, is that New York plus LA plus Chicago? You know, as far as just trying to even conceptualize how many people had seen this or how many people liked this. It's definitely rewarding work to not just affect people who directly have ADHD, because it is really important to feel understood and seen, especially with a disorder that is much more complicated than, oh, you have attention problems. There's just there's so much there.
Along with the popularity of her comics in the ADHD community, she's seen her profile rise.
I got hit up by Penguin Random House to do like a illustrated memoir of my childhood, which is crazy because that's on my bucket list, and I thought for sure that's one of the things that I'm like, I don't have the attention span to make a book. And so being able to do that, and so it's great and a little overwhelming because I have more things that I'm interested in that people want to collaborate on than I can possibly do.
While these ADHD comics serve to show how people are affected by the disorder, she makes certain to mention it is not a diagnostic tool.
I have specifically put in, if anyone asks me, does this mean I have ADHD? My response is always, no, not necessarily. If you look at my entire body of work as a whole and you're relating to most of them, if not all of them, you would go talk to a doctor to have people tell us that you're changing lives because people are getting help now. That's probably the best part. You can't feel what it feels like to be me, but I'm gonna try to help you get it. That's what I go for with my comics, and I think that's what we need to be aiming for kind of as a whole. It's very interesting, and I'm not gonna cry. I never felt like I was understood and seen. And so they say to make the kind of content that you want to see and that you wish you'd seen. And so I feel like I get to do that now, and it feels like such a privilege and purposeful work that I get to do all my favorite things. I get to feel like I'm helping people and improving lives.
Years ago, when I was a kid, I worked at Colonial Williamsburg. For us to be historically accurate at that time, we ought to have some tin cups. We bought some of them, and I paid $10 for this cup. And then when I left there, I carried it with me. And all the time that I went to different enactments or shoots or black powder events, I had that cup with me, and I always wanted to know how it was made, and I never found anybody who could make it. I went over to visit some friends who were doing Lewis and Clark reenactment, and there was a tinsmith there. And I zeroed in on the shiny objects, went right over and said, "This is really great stuff." And he says, "Thank you very much." And I said, "You made this?" And he said, "Yes, I did." I said, "Mister, I've been waiting 20 years to meet you." He gave me just enough information to get me started in how to put things together with tin plate. First thing I tried to do was reproduce that cup. I made a dozen of them, and 6 of them didn't leak. And I sold 5 of them, and then that was what got started. It's a challenge because you get to do layout and design. You get to study original pieces or come up with ideas of your own or create ideas of your own. It's fascinating work. If you do something and you really have a passion for it, you just kind of keep working at it regardless of whether or not you get paid for it or not. If it works out that other people like what it is that you're making, then you wind up selling it. I sell my product to historical reenactors, or I sell them to museums, or I sell them to historical interpretive programs, or people who are involved in history or would like old stuff. Fort Atkinson provides an opportunity to be able to talk about the history and the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and one of the precipitators for that is tin plate. You can take asparagus and put it in a tin can, you can seal it, and you can carry it for months or a year at a time, which was something that was impossible to be able to do before. This changes the way we store our food. And that gives us an opportunity to travel to places and go places that we've never been before. When it comes to how we eat, tin plate changes that. You now have a way to eat and drink out of something that's relatively inexpensive. And people can now have a cup and keep that cup for years. I jokingly call it the Tupperware of its time, because literally thousands of different things are made out of it, and you can easily look at objects which are made out of our plastic today, and they could be made out of tin plate. And it's very durable. It has many redeeming features to it. Tin plate can be bent and shaped and formed and placed into configurations which are extremely useful. The commodities and products that we have today are far better, far superior to tin plate. But on the other hand, tin plate has a characteristic, a feel to it that's nice, and we still use thin sheet metal for a lot of different products, but I don't know if it would ever come back in full strength. Yeah, it would be great to have it replace some of the plastic that's out there. I think it would be wonderful. Tin plate is pass-fail. The challenge in tin plate is learning how to put things together correctly the first time. And if you can do it the first time, then to repeat that process over and over and over again by rote. And once you understand the fundamentals of how things go together, then you're only limited by imagination as to what you can build. I don't know if there's a single object that I have that I make that I can't say that it's like stamping out donuts. Every one of them is unique, and every piece is a challenge, and every piece has its own little characteristics to it. And that object is to build the next one better. Passion. You have to have passion. And if you don't have passion, then you will not take the next step. With any art or any other form of your life, it's passion. Without it, you cannot go anywhere. You can't do anything. I mean, it's the same with me. I mean, I wandered for 20 years wanting to know how to build a cup until I bumped into the right person at the right time who gave me just enough information to set my passion free.
The real thing was just being here at the window and you could see all around. You could really just enjoy life. Just enjoy being quiet, and the only sounds you could hear were the wheels on the tracks.
Edwina Justice grew up in Omaha and came of age during the Civil Rights Movement.
I was encouraged all the way through school until I got to be in high school. And one of the counselors told me that there wasn't any need for us to go and take college prep courses.
In 1960, she graduated from Omaha Technical High School and began working in the area.
About 1967 or so. And I went down to Union Pacific to put in my application, and they wouldn't even let me fill an application out.
These were changing times, and just a few years later, Edwina ran into a former classmate who was working for Union Pacific. She asked him to put in a good word for her, and it worked. In 1973, UP hired Edwina as an office clerk.
And at that time, there were probably maybe 5 black women doing clerical work, and I was very proud of myself.
Edwina moved up the ranks, becoming a traction motor clerk where she kept track of repairs.
My job was to check on the traction motors and see where they're pulled out, and I didn't even know what a traction motor was. So they took me down to the shop and they showed me a traction motor.
The train engineer showed Edwina how he operated the engine. It was a brief conversation, but it set Edwina on a history-making path.
And so I got on the inside, and it looked like the job was not so hard. I could do that. And he said, well, why don't you go down and put in your application? But I was only kind of teasing when I said that I can do that, and I wanted to. I didn't really know what was in store for me.
She did apply, and in 1976, Edwina Justice became the first female African-American locomotive engineer for Union Pacific Railroad. The promotion required Edwina to move to North Platte. It was a town of about 22,000 people, and less than 100 were African-American.
Well, I thought that I was going to be going on a passenger train. I was in for the biggest surprise of my life. I had to sit on this train, on this work train, and it was this old engineer and this old conductor, and they are sitting there looking all mean. And when I got off that engine, these people were looking out of the window.
Being the only female black train engineer in the rail yard attracted attention. Some of her coworkers were friendly and called Edwina by her nickname, Curly. Others used slurs.
I can't say specifics, I can't remember even the people, but there were people that, well, she's taking our job type thing. She had 2 strikes. She was a woman and she was black.
One night, one of them came in and he didn't see me, and wanted to know if the in girl was, she's coming in tonight. And then he turned and looked me right in the face, and because he didn't know that I was already in there.
Edwina withstood the racism and flourished. She spent 14 of her 17-year career at Union Pacific as a railroad engineer.
I think Curly was a good engineer and made it in a man's world running that train by her personality. And she was bubbly all the time and jolly, having fun, joking. And she made a long day a short day. And she operated the train as good as any man. I think she opened up the window for a lot of people to have the opportunity to be engineers.
It didn't matter whether you were a woman or a man. If you qualified for the job and you had enough seniority, you could get the job. So I worked my way up. From the very first department that I was ever in at Union Pacific, most of the guys, and probably some of the women too, had never been close enough to a black woman to touch, period. and I changed every department that I went into.
By the time she left in 1990, the workforce of Union Pacific was changing as well. And in more recent years, the company has been recognized for its commitment to diversity and inclusion.
Grand Island, Nebraska, 1926. Captured on flammable nitrate film. And here's the same view shot with a video camera, 90 years later. The past meets the present.
Thank you for coming.
We're at the Grand Theater for the premiere of Hometown Movies. This is filmmaker John Sorensen's gift to his hometown.
The earliest footage in the film is from 1926, and there's like a high school class graduation.
And his tribute to a man generations of children will never forget.
Hi, folks. I'm Wally Kemp from Grand Island Drive-In Theater. Been out to Hollywood. Very enthusiastic about the pictures that's coming forth. I want you to take a peek at a few of them. Thank you.
Wally Kemp, longtime manager of the Grand, had Hollywood connections. But his real gift was getting kids excited about movies.
For the summer shows, he would come on stage, and I was one of those kids. My parents were some of those kids before me, and he would come out and he would say, "I'm so glad to have you all here. I want to do a few special things I do every year to start the shows. So first of all, we're going to sing God Bless America." God bless America, my home, sweet home. Everybody, turn to the booth. And now, on with the show.
This is one of the hometown movies Wally Kemp collected over the years and screened in this very theater. Only one copy of this film was ever made, and after Wally Kemp's death, no one could find it. Until John Sorensen got in touch with a film curator at the Storr Museum in Grand Island in the 1980s.
And we spent a day searching all over the grounds trying to find something. He finally went, there's a room I hardly go into, there's a desk in it with a drawer. I think I may have seen some film. We got in there, he opened the desk drawer, cigarette in mouth. There's all that film, and I said, "Tom, put out the cigarette." Because some of that, the 1926 was, they call silver nitrate, highly flammable stock, and it could have blown up the whole museum.
John took the nitrate film to an expert, Paul Eiseloffel of the Nebraska State Historical Society.
We wanted to make sure that it hadn't degraded in any way. We were very careful about unrolling it and looking at frame by frame. One thing that I found when I was researching the film is that it was made with the intention of actually documenting the town. So they took great pains to show businesses, to show community leaders, to show pioneers, to show school kids, a whole spectrum of what the city was like at the time.
Another surprise from Wally Kemp's collection. Hollywood comes to town in living color. In 1939, Paramount Pictures rented a train to transport celebrities to the Omaha premiere of a new film called Union Pacific, with a stop in Grand Island along the way. The whole town came out to see Barbara Stanwyck and director Cecil B. DeMille.
It had this national, regional, local aspect, all kind of colliding into this one event. And I think it really documented that event very well. I think the moving image is probably the most important document of the 20th century. If we didn't have the footage of the moon landing, the Rodney King footage, if we didn't have the Zapruder film of the Kennedy assassination, how would our lives be different?
And sometimes the moving image simply captures everyday life. These are rare scenes from downtown Grand Island in December 1945, at the end of World War II.
And it's like Frank Capra came to town and found It's a Wonderful Life actually happening and took it down as a reality show. It's very powerful.
Just point the camera at what's happening, capture that, and that's what home movies are all about. Downtown is where things were happening. That's where you wanted to be.
From shadows of the past into the full light of the present.
Great. Wonderful. Fabulous. Oh, I liked it all.
It was wonderful. Educates me a little bit.
My grandparents lived here, so I was looking for them real hard in the films.
And surprise, Buzz Doffett recognized his father from the long-lost footage of 1945.
I couldn't believe it. You know, my dad was a tremendous skater. He grew up in Fullerton area on the Loop River, and they had an old guy from Norway taught him how to ice skate. And he could do figure eights, backwards, frontwards, terrific skater. I think that picture was probably taken at Shimmers Lake, and they had an ice skating club. I couldn't believe it. I'm so anxious to call my sisters and tell them I saw Dad out there skating.
So here it is, preserved for all time, lost and found film. The past waving at the present. Nothing more, nothing less than shadows on the screen.
Watch more Nebraska Stories on our website, Facebook, and YouTube. Nebraska Stories is funded in part by the Margaret and Martha Thomas Foundation.